All right, so welcome to the Healing by Design series. This is actually our first A, beginning of the alphabet, going A to Z. So I'm pretty excited. We did do an introductory class last Monday, so check YouTube for the introductory class. I encourage everybody to watch the introductory class, regardless of which of these A to Z health conditions you decide to watch. So this class is on acid reflux. That's where we're starting. I'm going to give you a brief introduction, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of acid reflux. I want everybody to understand that there is a God who designed our bodies. He designed them to function in a certain way. Everything we call disease or sickness in our culture is a misalignment with God's design. The symptoms are a signal of that imbalance. It's a warning light to let us know that something is out of balance and that we need to bring it back into balance. I love to say thank God for pain. I appreciate the way He designed us so that we know that something's wrong, so that we can correct it and realign with God, because that's His desire, oneness with Him. And if we didn't have pain, if we didn't have symptoms, if we didn't have a signal that something was wrong, well, we'd probably just continue to do wrong things until ultimately, who knows what horrible things might happen. So I'm very thankful that God loves us enough to let us know when there's a problem. I do believe that the one who created you is the only one who can heal you. All healing comes from God. Many of you who are here and who are watching this know Christ, know the one true God. And you know the Bible, you know the God of the Bible, you know everything it says about health and healing and the promises that are in the Bible related to health and healing. So there's a lot of confusion related to sickness and disease. Why we have a culture that has so much sickness and disease. Why we have over 10,000 named disease conditions if we know and believe what the Bible says, and we know how much God loves us and He desires for us to be one with Him. Why do we see such a culture of sickness and disease? It seems contrary to the Bible and the God who loves us that we would have so much sickness in our culture. If you do know the Lord, I want you to know and understand that God heals in many ways. I love the God of miracles, but I also love, and I believe God's called me to teach on the God of design and purpose and natural created order. Embracing the things of His creation, understanding how He designed our bodies, aligning with creation, which would be the earth and the food He gave us, water, sunshine, etc., everything He created and designed for us in this habitation in which we live, and aligning with God can alleviate a lot of the problems that we have today. So I really think it's important, especially for Christians, to understand there's many ways to healing through God, because He is everything outside of just the miracle. And again, I love the miracles, I appreciate the miracles, but there's a lot of other aspects to God's heart outside of the miracles. And I really encourage anybody to watch the first introductory class for more detail on that. Ultimately, God has given us everything that we need to be healthy and well on this earth if we choose it, if we choose Him, if we're choosing the things of God versus what I say, the things of man. It's really not, man's not our enemy. We know God loves people. It's really that we've been blinded by the tactics of the enemy and allowing us to do things to ourselves that lead to sickness and disease. But choosing the things of God can realign us with Him and help alleviate these issues. Now, if you haven't chosen Jesus Christ, if you don't know God or the God of the Bible, my heart is to invite you to do so. He's the only reason I do these classes. I actually didn't teach for almost 2 years, and I promised the Lord that I would not teach again if I couldn't preach Christ and Christ crucified. Because you're watching this class, for example, on acid reflux, and one of my favorite scriptures is God reigns on the righteous and the unrighteous. God's natural principles, His natural laws apply to all people. So you can have an illness, a sickness, a disease. You can align with God's principles of health and healing, and you can heal your body of afflictions, such as this one we're talking about, acid reflux. But if you heal your body and stop there outside of knowing Christ and knowing who God is, you can have healing and health in your body, but you won't have eternal life, because eternal life spiritually only comes through Christ. So anybody who doesn't know him, I want to invite into that and go beyond just the physical healing of our body, which is important as well. The goals in the class are to know that God can heal you without needing man-made intervention. The pharmaceutical drugs, all the different therapies we have out there, not saying there's not a time and a place for them on occasion, but in general, we shouldn't be reliant on that system for health and healing, because God's given us everything we need if we choose it. God can heal anything, anytime, quickly or slowly, the miracle or the process, which is difficult for many of us. I have to share this because this just happened this morning. I was actually in prayer this morning, as I am every morning, and the Lord gave me a scripture, 2 Chronicles 16:11. I'm not in Chronicles very much, so I had no idea what was there. It's not a book of the Bible that I'm regularly in. But it was about King Asa, A-S-A. I don't know if I pronounced that right. But he was actually a righteous king, and he reigned for 41 years. And what's interesting about King Asa is at the 39th year of his reign, he had a very bad affliction, or a disease of the feet, the Bible calls it. And what's amazing is that the scripture, 2 Chronicles 16:12, goes on to say that in his disease, this really bad affliction he had of his feet, in his disease, he chose, instead of seeking answers from the Lord, he chose to seek answers from the physicians. That's what the scripture says. I was blown away by that because I hadn't seen that before. Or I might have seen it and just didn't think anything of it. But in his disease, he chose the physicians over seeking the Lord. And 2 years later, he died. So he reigned for 41 years. So he lived 2 years with that affliction, but he did not find an answer to his affliction because he was looking at physicians and not God. So I just think that's amazing, because that's my whole heart behind this series. And I think that's God's heart, is to show us that he can heal us of these issues if we choose the things of God. Really, the goal is to get as many people off of and away from pharmaceutical drugs as possible. I don't believe they're necessary. We've lived for thousands of years without them. Some people might argue our world is better with them. I don't believe that. I believe, again, God has given us our provision if we can learn how to align with him and his heart. The example of using pharmaceutical drugs that I like to use is, it's like, you know that engine light that comes on in your car? So you see the engine light comes on, what do? You're going to figure out what's going on. You're going to take it into a mechanic or something, right? To me, taking a pharmaceutical drug is the engine light coming on, but you're actually kind of annoyed by the engine light. And so what you do is you go in and you snip the wire so that the light goes off, so that you can just ignore it and pretend like nothing's wrong. That's what taking a pharmaceutical drug is. It's because God's letting us know, he's speaking to us through our bodies, that there's a problem with the human body. And instead of addressing it, we're just trying to make the problem go away, or pretend that like there's not a problem by taking a drug. We want to show you that God's medicine cabinet is endless, and he has solutions to any of these issues. So the general process through these classes is going to discuss how God designed the body related to this health issue, what causes the body to get out of balance, the potential dangers or risks of using pharmaceutical drugs and their side effects, and ultimately how to realign with God and creation to reverse these issues. So acid reflux, also known as GERD. GERD, interesting word. Gastroesophageal reflux disease. Disease. As soon as you hear that word disease, you think, oh my gosh, it's incurable. I have this horrible affliction. There's nothing I can do about it. And acid reflux certainly is not a disease. Heartburn, certainly not a disease. Okay, again, it's a basic misalignment with how God designed the body to function. And I know I've seen people in my office who have been on acid reflux, antacid, those types of medications for 20 plus years. And they just use it, again, to manage their symptoms. About 1 in 5 people approximately suffer from this type of issue, of acid reflux or heartburn or burning of the esophagus. That's about 60 million people. The sales, you might be shocked and might help you to understand why the pharmaceutical industry wants you to think this is a disease, because there's a lot of money to be made off of all drugs. Pharmaceutical sales, and this is actually numbers from a few years ago, but antacids, acid reflux drugs, over $10 billion with a B, $10 billion per year. The purple pill, the Nexium, over $5 billion alone from one drug. So again, can you see why they want people to believe it's a disease? Just take this drug the rest of your life and don't worry about it. So, God's design. How did God design digestion? Well, it's something I think we kind of take for granted unless we're suffering. And a lot of people have digestive issues. But the process is supposed to be that we eat food, we chew it, which a lot of us aren't real good at. I've been really good at inhaling food my entire life. But chewing is really important. I have friends I've known from Asian cultures who they chew their food and it takes them a really long time to eat. I think a lot of us in Western culture get annoyed at that, but that's actually the best way to eat, slowly and chew your food. They actually say you can take care of 70% or more of your digestion just by chewing your food properly. So you chew your food, we have saliva for a reason. There's amylase, which are digestive enzymes that digest carbohydrates in the saliva, that has it mostly digested before it even hits the stomach. But when it hits the stomach, that's something critical that happens, especially related to this acid reflux issue, is that's where the stomach acid is. I gave you all a little article on why stomach acid is important for you. Because a lot of people and a lot of doctors, a lot of pharmaceutical companies really will have us believing or want us to believe that stomach acid is bad for us, that there's a problem with our stomach acid, that we have too much stomach acid, so we need to stop the production of our stomach acid. That's actually not true at all. If you understand what acid reflux is, it's actually a deficiency in stomach acid. It's a lack of stomach acid. A lot of people know that today, but there's still a lot of people that don't know that. It's a deficiency of stomach acid. So when food hits the stomach, there's acid in there, that the pH of that is about 2 or 2.5. It's very acidic. I love the Chinese medicine saying, they say, stomach should be like bubbling cauldron. Should be hot and fiery so it can break down and digest and process our food and break it down, and so it's easy for our body to handle. Stomach acid is really important for that. After the stomach acid breaks it down, then it's going to move on to the intestines where you have bile, and it's further broken down, and that's where the nutrients are released into the body that should be in the body. So there's this complicated process of probiotics and living bacteria in your intestinal tract. It's like a part of your immune system that decides what's the good stuff, what's the bad stuff, what should I let into the body, what should I not let into the body. I mean, God's design is pretty amazing. And then after it gets through that process, we know it gets to the colon, which is about 4 to 5 feet long. Small intestines is about 20 to 22 feet long, depending on the person. So it's a really long system. And then the colon, about 4 to 5 feet long, where waste is eliminated. So that's a real rough explanation. There's a lot more details in that, but basically how the digestive process is supposed to work. But with acid reflux, where we have a problem is we have a problem with the stomach acid. So that's really what we want to focus on, is what's happening is people have a deficiency in stomach acid. And if you don't have enough stomach acid to break down and digest your food, it sits there. And things can rot and ferment and break down and create gas. And if it doesn't get broken down properly, it's going to create a bad environment in our stomach, and it's going to start to damage something called the esophageal sphincter. It's that little flap on the end of your esophagus that should remain closed, that if it gets damaged long term, it can actually stay permanently open, where people have a permanent stomach acid always coming back up into their esophagus, damaging their esophagus. People have trouble with their voice, or people have trouble swallowing. That's real common. People have problems with a burning esophagus. It's all kind of related to this. Heartburn, it's all related to this. So what we need to do is actually strengthen the stomach acid so that it works better. If you've ever heard of a hiatal hernia, this is a big deal when it comes to acid reflux. It's the stomach acid problem causing the burning and the damage done to the stomach lining, which can cause the lining to protrude through, leading to a hernia, which a lot of people will get surgeries, for example, to close that up. And there's exercises and there's different things you can do. But ultimately, the best thing you can do is correct your digestion and correct your stomach acid to help that hernia, because not a lot of people believe that there's a lot of answers for their hernia outside of surgery. But if you have a hernia, especially a hiatal hernia, correcting digestion is the most important thing you can do for that hernia. The other problem, if you don't have stomach acid, besides digesting proteins, so a lot of people will eat a lot, meat and get acid reflux, heavy protein-containing foods. The other problematic foods are going to be starches, not digesting starches properly. It'll kind of foam up and ferment. The example is kind of like adding sugar to yeast, like when you make bread and it foams up. That's the same thing that happens to your stomach. You have weak stomach acid, you eat a lot of sugar, it causes everything to foam up. In addition to that, kind of getting into the importance of stomach acid, we have to understand why the pH of stomach acid is so low, 2.0, 2.5, to digest and break down these starches, these carbs, these proteins. One is digesting food, but the other thing, it's protection. It's protection of the body. We're always encountering bacteria, viruses, parasites, all different kinds of things can enter our body. They should be killed immediately from the stomach acid in our system. So that's another problem or danger of having issues with stomach acid and digestion, is actually leaving an open door to having infections in the body. Like H. pylori would be one that people have commonly heard of. H. pylori is a bacteria that actually sets up shop in the stomach. And what it does is it can only be in a stomach that has a deficiency in stomach acid. Because what it does is it starts to set up there and reproduce, and it will actually secrete ammonia, which is a very alkaline substance. So it completely offsets your stomach acid so that it can live and thrive in your stomach. So H. pylori is common with people, and other bacterial infections are common with people with GERD and acid reflux issues because of the weakness of the stomach acid. So we want the stomach acid to be strong. We want the stomach acid to break down food, be a bubbling cauldron, kill infectious organisms that are entering our body. And anything you do to offset that is going to have long-term consequences. Something that's interesting that I just want to mention about these bacterial issues that can happen in the gut is a lot of people have a lot of issues with sugar and sugar cravings. And when you have gut dysbiosis, and a real good program that explains this really well is the Body Ecology Diet. But when you have gut dysbiosis and you have an overgrowth of infectious bacteria in your gut, the organisms actually live off of sugar, starch, and carbs. So that's part of driving the cravings, is that these infectious organisms are driving your cravings for these sweet foods. But what also happens is when you feed them, they actually produced a waste product, and it's ethanol or acetaldehyde, which is like an alcohol, which actually sedates and calms the nervous system. So it's almost a drug-like effect. So you think of the different addictions people have: cigarettes, alcohol, food oftentimes is not really addressed, even in the church, unfortunately. But that's one of the reasons, is there's a sedative effect on the body when we have an overgrowth of infections in the gut. And it gives us that calming effect, which can kind of drive those cycles for addiction. So I thought that was really fascinating. I really wanted to share that. Another problem with weak digestion is you're going to have undigested food getting into your body and into your bloodstream, which is why so many people have food allergies, food sensitivities, autoimmune diseases. You can link a lot of that to a breakdown in digestion and an overgrowth of infectious organisms in our gut. You've heard of leaky gut, autoimmune conditions. The body's not designed to attack itself. The body has a very intelligent immune system that shouldn't attack good things. So what's happening always in instance of autoimmune diseases is it's things getting into the bloodstream that God did not design to be in the bloodstream. Therefore, it's forcing the body to have an immune system response to try to get the antagonizing thing out of the bloodstream, which is often foreign chemicals, undigested food, undigested protein molecules. You hear of wheat allergies, gluten, dairy, these different types of allergies. It's from these items getting into parts of the body they shouldn't be. Okay, that's autoimmune conditions. So when we have low stomach acid, and you can look at this article I think I gave you guys. It's actually from Body Ecology. Oh, I don't have it in mine. Does anybody have one? Yeah. An extra? Oh, she's got an extra. Thank you. So it says, low stomach acid, the risks, the symptoms, and the solutions. Hypochlorhydria, that's the fancy terminology for low stomach acid. And she talks about why stomach acid is good for you. We kind of went over that. Breaking down proteins into amino acids. It's important for producing different enzymes and preventing disease by killing bacteria, yeast, and different things like that. So it talks about the side effects of having problems with stomach acid. So what's going to happen if you have a deficiency in stomach acid is you're not going to get minerals properly, and you're not going to get protein properly. Now that's critical, because if you've heard any of my other classes, and when we talk about God's design, He designed us out of dust of the earth. We don't function without minerals. It's crucial for life function. It's how the cells communicate, it's how muscles work, it's how nerves work, it's how the immune system works. We have to have minerals to function. We also have to break down protein into usable amino acids to build and regenerate healthy new cells, new tissues, new organs, etc., because the body is always regenerating itself, and it can't regenerate itself without the proper building blocks. So if you have problems with acid reflux, you're not digesting your food properly because you don't have a sufficient amount of stomach acid. So what that's going to do is long-term going to lead to deficiency type of diseases. And if you look at the side effects, my wife and I were just at Target the other day, and I didn't even realize that all this stuff, almost, I don't know if all of it, but a good portion of it is sold over the counter now. I don't know when that happened. But all the, the Prilosec, the Nexium, and on down the list, these are available right at pretty much anywhere these days. You can buy them just right off the shelf. And if you look at the side effects, they will almost all say, they'll list all these different conditions and reasons you shouldn't take it, but they all mention mineral loss, increased risk of hip fractures, bone density issue, so osteoporosis, osteopenia. So they know that taking these drugs is going to cause you not to digest food properly and not digest minerals properly. And they also, a lot of them also say increased risk of infection. Because again, same reason. You offset your stomach acid, you don't have the tools you need to protect yourself from infectious organisms that are entering your body. So she talks about in the article here, low stomach acid, vicious cycle, low mineral content, which leads to acidic blood. I talk a lot about acid-alkaline balance, the importance of alkalinity, which alkalinity in the blood mainly comes from minerals, having the right minerals in your body. You can eat plenty of protein and still be malnourished. You can eat mineral-dense foods and still be malnourished as food passes through your system undigested if you don't have strong stomach acid. She lists a whole bunch of symptoms of low stomach acid. which you can kind of read through those. And then she gives you some keys to overcome it. I wonder why, I often think about and kind of theorize why we have some of the issues we have today. I think it's pretty obvious with a lot of issues of the digestive issues. A couple of main reasons. One is we're not eating food designed by God. Our body understands that food God designed. Our bodies understand apples and walnuts and fish. Our body has a really tough time with Skittles and Cheez-Its and Doritos and Coca-Cola because these are man-made things. And the body's going to be able to process and digest adequately and properly those things of God's design. And the processed foods it's going to have a really, really tough time with. In addition to that, I really think it's just the amount of food. I mean, we're going to go through ways to kind of overcome acid reflux or GERD or heartburn, also conclude a hiatal hernia in that category. But it's the overconsumption of food, eating the wrong foods and the overconsumption of food. And it's not a disease. Again, if we just simply change some of the things that we're doing, restore strong digestion, maybe do some food combining, change the foods that we're eating, anybody can get off acid reflux medications. And I will say I've seen some tough ones. I've seen some tough ones. I have met, and I don't know how this even happens. I've seen, I don't remember which one it was, Nexium or Prilosec or one of them over the counter, and they're not cheap. It's $30 for a little package of them or whatever. But I met a girl one time who told me she was getting one of those acid reflux drugs through a doctor, and even with her insurance, she was paying over $200 a month. And she'd been taking these for years. I've met people who have been on acid reflux or antacids for 20 plus years and are actually scared to death to get off of them because they know how bad those feelings are of that acid coming back up into their esophagus. And so they'd rather just just continue to take the drug and not try to get off it. But I have seen people even taking these drugs for 10, 15, 20 years get off of them just by making some basic changes. So I kind of want to go through some of the ways that we can heal the body of this. And again, I just think this is a big deal because thousands of people, millions of people, according to these statistics, are taking these types of drugs. It's big, big profit for the pharmaceutical industry. And so they don't want you to know the simple things. One thing I love about God is He's very simple. He's simple. He's simple. We complicate things so much. But there's basic things that He gave us in the earth that are simple and extremely affordable. I truly believe, I have a store, I sell products. I'll be the first to tell you that I believe that if we embraced God's design fully, we wouldn't need stores. We wouldn't. There's people that have lived with other cultures who didn't have hospitals. They didn't have stores selling a bunch of supplements. They lived in God's creation and they chose the things of God and they lived alignment with how God designed us to live on this earth. So I think that's very possible. So, another issue I just want to bring up with the dangers of the pharmaceutical drugs is the dependence. The tolerance, you build up tolerance to it, and the dependence. You come to rely on them. So let's get into the different ways to kind of rebalance the body. I'm going to give everybody a one-pager each week, and I'll put it on YouTube right under the video with kind of like just my top 10 ways to overcome whatever the issue is, in this case, acid reflux. 1, read and begin implementing ideas from the body ecology diet. I'm going to refer to body ecology diet a lot. I'm not personal friends with Donna Gates. I really appreciate her work. I actually think it's the best program out there to heal the most people of the most issues that we're having today in our culture. And that's actually saying a lot because there's a lot of programs, there's a lot of diets, there's a lot of people doing a lot of good things out there. But I believe her program is the best. So body ecology diet. It's a program that eliminates all sugars, starches, carbohydrates from the diet. And I believe that's important because that's a big reason that so many people have these issues, is the chronic sugar issue, eating, and the eating of the processed foods. And this is going to get you away from processed foods, eating whole foods designed by God, and get you on the right track to strengthening digestion. Number 2 is basic food combining principles. You can read really thick, complicated books on food combining. Has anybody read a book on food combining? Okay, no. There's some pretty interesting books on food combining, so I'm just going to make it as simple as possible. Now, for the person who has like the iron stomach, you've met those people. This guys, oftentimes guys who can just eat whatever, whenever, and they have an iron stomach and nothing ever bothers them. Okay, that's not the majority of people out there. So food combining isn't overly critical for everybody, but when it comes to acid reflux and it comes to restoring digestive strength, it's crucial. It's crucial. I'll never forget I did a class somehow related to this a few years ago, and I'll never forget this lady. I had told her one time about food combining, and she made the meals for her husband. And she goes, he's going to eat what he's going to eat. He's not going to change his diet, in other words. So because she couldn't change the food, because he wouldn't change his diet, she did the food combining principles. And she came in a couple of months later and shared at a class that her husband lost 60 pounds. Food combining, not changing his diet, not changing the foods he was eating. Now, they weren't eating bad. They were eating kind of your typical, like, farm food. My grandparents were farmers. What did you eat? I mean, every meal was a meat and a starch and a green and a whatever it was. It's the kind of the typical grown up America farm lifestyle. But these food combining principles can really, really help people get off of acid reflux medications. The first rule of thumb is fruit on an empty stomach. The reason fruit on an empty stomach is fruit digests really quick. Within 30 minutes, it's in and out of your stomach. It's gone. But if you eat a bunch of other food with it, or you eat a meal and you eat fruit on top of it, eat fruit for a dessert, eat fruit with anything, it ferments and creates gas so fast that that's going to cause a lot of gas, a lot of issues. It's going to feed infections. It's going to cause a lot of problems eating fruit if you have digestive issues. So really eat fruit on an empty stomach. So like a snack, like an apple between meals. If you want to just keep breakfast light, just have a piece of fruit for breakfast and just keep it really simple. The second food combining rule is not combining starch and protein. I mean, who's not done that growing up? I mean, my whole life I grew up eating burgers and hot dogs and sandwiches, and so it's the starch with the protein. And so when you eat protein, hydrochloric acid's needed. When you eat starch, you need amylase enzymes and bile and different things to digest it. And it just basically makes kind of a soup of undigestible food in your gut when you combine protein and starch. And so that was the one change that this lady had made. She stopped combining protein and starch, and he lost 60 pounds. I was blown away. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, do you really believe that? Like, can you bring him in to like prove it? But yeah, that's what she said happened. So not combining protein and starch, which would be like meat and potatoes, or meat even with rice. And so to make it simple with food combining, because I don't like things to be complicated, I really like them to be simple, is the third combining rule is vegetables combine with everything. Just make it simple. Vegetables combine with everything. So a general rule of thumb, if you want to strengthen your digestion, you want to get off acid reflux medication, eat vegetables with every meal with one other thing. Okay, so your meal one day is vegetables with chicken. A dinner might be vegetables with fish. Your lunch might be a salad with fish or chicken on top. Or you do vegetables with rice, or vegetables with quinoa. See, vegetables with one other thing, not vegetables with rice, with steak, and fruit for dessert. You see the difference. So, and then another simple thing I don't even have on here, I just thought of it, is people always ask, well, how do you eat out? Can I eat out? Especially if you have digestive issues. If you eat at a restaurant, make it simple, meat and vegetables. You can go almost anywhere and get a good piece of chicken or fish and get some vegetables, get some steamed broccoli, get the steamed vegetables. my wife and I have been in the habit of, when we go to restaurants now, we don't get the bread before the meal, and you don't have to have dessert after the meal. Now, I grew up doing that, but it's created issues in me, and I know it's issues in a lot of people. So those are just the basic food combining rules. Fruit on an empty stomach, not combining protein and starch, and vegetables with one other thing as a general rule of thumb. Again, more crucial if you have digestive issues. Third, don't overeat. That sounds simple, right? Portion control. That's what a lot of these weight loss programs are about, portion control. Eat until you're satisfied. And I refer to Asian cultures a lot because I think they do a lot of things right when it comes to eating food. But it's actually rude to overeat in Asian cultures. General rule of thumb, they're about, they know they're about 3/4, 80% full. They push away. They eat slowly, and when they're done, they're done. In general, eat until you're satisfied. Don't eat until you feel full or feel stuffed. And keep in mind that the more you eat and the more you overeat, the more your stomach stretches. Your stomach's this big. Your stomach's the size of your fist. Now, if you overeat, your stomach stretches to compensate for that. So as you continue to eat and your stomach stretches, it takes you longer to feel full and to feel satisfied. I know a lot of people who feel like they have to eat and eat and eat and eat to feel full. Well, it might be because your body's used to you overeating. So if you cut back on your portion size, or even better yet, try fasting for 3 days. Juice only for 3 days. And then try eating a salad and tell me how quick you get full. Be halfway through that salad and you'll be like, oh, like how am I full already? It's because your stomach's not really that big. And in America and a lot of Western cultures, we really, really tend to overeat. So that's very dangerous. If deficiency in stomach acid is a big reason we have acid reflux, then overeating is going to put way too much food in the body than it can possibly digest and process. And again, you're going to create just this soup of undigested food that's going to cause this acid and this gas to come back up into the esophagus. And that's what creates that heartburn or that reflux. Do I have 2 twice? Yes. Or is that just mine? Oh, so I think I have 11 things. That's pretty funny. Eliminate sugar and caffeine best you can, especially processed sugar, especially overdoing caffeine. Its acidity is the problem with sugar and caffeine mainly. Sugar also feeds infections, which is going to cause an overgrowth of the infectious bacteria in the gut. So when your body's acidic, it pulls minerals from the body. It weakens the blood. And it forces the body to pull minerals from your bones. So you got a double whammy here, especially if you take acid reflux drugs. You can't digest minerals properly. If you're eating an acidic diet, it's forcing minerals to be pulled from your body to balance the pH of your bloodstream. And long term, that's just a really bad situation to be in. Minerals are crucial for stomach acid production. The body needs something to actually produce stomach acid, and minerals is what actually does that, bicarbonate minerals. So if you're mineral deficient, your body's going to rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, to keep your blood alive, because the life of all flesh is in the blood, Leviticus 17, 13, and 14. The bloodstream is the life force of the body. So the body will do everything it can to keep the blood healthy, including pulling minerals from the bones if it has to. But you also won't produce proper stomach acid if you're mineral deficient. So the standard American diet, too much coffee, soda, heavy meat consumption, grain, sugar. Many people can attest to drinking coffee and causing acid reflux. Eating sweets and causing acid reflux. And it's for this reason. 4, now if you just want the most simple thing you can do to strengthen your stomach acid, because again, this is a deficiency in stomach acid problem, is take hydrochloric acid capsules. Actually taking a pill that contains hydrochloric acid or stomach acid. There's a couple we like, Doctor's Best, hydrochloric acid, pepsin, and bitters. That's just basically stomach acid. If it's more complicated, and I put in here, for example, people who have had their gallbladder removed, if you have trouble digesting fats pass right through you because of liver gallbladder issues, or if you have pancreas issues, because the body produces pancreatic enzymes to help us digest our food. You can get enzymes that have a more complete variety of items such as bile, pepsin, different digestive aids to help you. But hydrochloric acid is the key when it comes to acid reflux. A little tip you can do and you can actually kind of find out where you're at, is you can take one hydrochloric acid capsule with a meal, and that should help you digest your meal. Now, if you have plenty of stomach acid, taking one pill would actually cause a burning sensation in your stomach. If you have no burning sensation, next meal, try 2 capsules. Next meal, you can try 3 capsules. You can increase it up to that point where you feel a slight burning in your stomach, and then you can cut back. So if 3 you feel a little burning, you can actually do 2 hydrochloric acid capsules with each meal to help you digest your food, which again, the goal here is to strengthen your stomach acid so you can get off the medication. Now, that's the quick solution, and I'm fine with that, especially if it helps people get off medication. But long term, we want to naturally increase our body's ability to produce stomach acid. So a couple of things that can do that naturally. One is sea salt. Good old salt that we're all so scared of and the doctors tell us is bad for us. Well, man-made salt is bad, table salt. Salt from the earth. Jesus said you're salt, and he said you're light. But salt is crucial for human function. You can't get hydrated without it. It's really important for a strong stomach and stomach acid. It helps the body to secrete stomach acid because it's high in minerals. Again, minerals being one of the keys to digestion. Salt also has been used for hundreds of years as a preservative. And so taking salt will help eliminate the body of infectious organisms, bacteria and yeast and fungus overgrowth in the gut. Salt will help purify the system. Quick tip, if you have a yeast infection or urinary tract infection, you can actually put a tablespoon of sea salt in a glass of water, stir it up and drink, and it'll knock it out because of the purifying abilities of salt. If you even look in Scripture, the Hebrews, when a baby was born, they'd actually wash the baby in salt. It was part of the purification process. Davidic covenant, a covenant of salt. There's all kinds of great salt references in the Bible. But sea salt can really help strengthen your digestion. You can do something called the Soleil method. I really, really like that. It's where you take Himalayan salt, you put it in a glass of water, and you let it fully dissolve into the water until it's saturated with salt water. Then you take a teaspoon of that a day. So don't drink the salt water. It won't kill you, but it'll really cause a flush. That's a quick cleanse. Take a teaspoon of the salt water, put it in a glass of water, and drink it first thing in the morning. It literally brings people back to life. Try it. Increases energy, brain fog clears up, gets you hydrated. It's a great way to start the day because we're so sodium and mineral deficient. So that's called the Soleil method. That's been around a long time. It works great. If you don't have that or don't want to do that, just put a little sea salt on your food. But in water, it works differently and it works better. It gets right into the fluid system. And you can just put a half a teaspoon in salt, stir it up, and drink that. Do that a couple times a day. So sea salt, excellent for increasing stomach acid. Greens. There's a gal who wrote a bunch of books on greens. Victoria Butenko. I'm sorry if I got her name wrong. Greens for Life, and she wrote a bunch of different books. But she actually did a study with a doctor and took people who had low stomach acid, who had problems digesting their food, and challenged them to a greens diet, to drink at least one big green smoothie every day for 1 month. They checked their stomach acid. After 1 month, they checked their stomach acid. On average, the people had an increase of upwards of 80% of increased stomach acid production. So greens help your body to naturally increase your stomach acid. So you can do leafy green vegetables and do green smoothies in the morning, or you can get spirulina, chlorella. We have a bunch of different greens, powders, but all of those will help naturally increase your stomach acid production. And greens are powerful for a number of reasons. They cleanse the blood and purify the blood, and they cleanse the liver. They oxygenate the bloodstream. I mean, we could talk forever just about greens. But the focus here is naturally increasing hydrochloric acid and stomach production. So we got sea salt and greens to do that. I'll throw one in that's not on the sheet. Hot, spicy foods. Remember bubbling cauldron, right? Cayenne pepper, ginger, turmeric, horseradish, cinnamon, oregano. What am I missing? There's all kinds of great spices that are great for strengthening digestion. I just remembered something. Back in the day, years ago, I used to make this little blend up for people. I called it digestive fire. It's funny, I still have people email me asking for the recipe. But I actually took fresh garlic and fresh ginger, and I pressed it, and then I added turmeric and oregano and horseradish, and I mean, it'll light you up. It'll help you digest your food. It'll also clear up your sinuses and probably keep you from getting sick and a whole other bunch of things. But that heat can really strengthen digestion. Now, not everybody's going to do well with spices and spicy foods. And let me just make a note. Not everybody's going to do great with hydrochloric acid, especially if they have ulcers. Ulcers is where the lining of the stomach's actually been damaged to the point of actually doing stomach acid or hydrochloric acid. Hot, spicy foods actually irritates that person. So that would be we might have to do a ulcers class, we'll see. But that would be a reason that you don't do well with those things. Get fermented, number 7, or technically 8 since I misnumbered. Sauerkraut, kimchi, Bragg's apple cider vinegar. There's other brands, but we trust Bragg's. We actually went to a farm yesterday and learned how to make apple cider vinegar out of apples. It's super easy. So I'm going to have to start doing that and not buying it anymore. But you can do these things yourself. You can ferment, and you can make sauerkraut and kimchi and apple cider vinegar, and they actually increase stomach acid. A lot of people know that you can take apple cider vinegar with or before your meals, and it helps with your digestion, and you can get off acid reflux drugs. Many people have done that. It's one of the first things I learned when I got into health. So there's a lot of simple ways we can strengthen our digestion. But fermented foods have a lot of benefits. They're also going to help reestablish balance with your gut flora and knocking out infectious organisms and giving you healthy bacteria for your gut lining as well. Baking soda magic. I have a 200-page book on baking soda. I love it. This is kind of where I talk about the simple things of God. You know, you don't have to spend a bunch of money on acid reflux drugs or even natural things. You can use sea salt, you can use baking soda, things that cost you pennies, and just change your diet a little bit. Baking soda, a lot of people know the trick, so to speak, where you eat a bunch of food or you overeat, and oh my gosh, here comes the acid reflux and the heartburn. You take baking soda, it knocks it out. Okay, that works. That's okay in an emergency situation. That's not ideal because it's not helping you digest your food. It's knocking back your stomach acid. But the way to do it, to strengthen your body overall and to strengthen your digestion overall, is to actually do that on an empty stomach. So first thing in the morning when you wake up or at night before bed, you can take a half a teaspoon. Start with a quarter teaspoon, half a teaspoon. Some people can do more or less. I roughly say a half a teaspoon. Put it in water, stir it up, drink it on an empty stomach. When the baking soda hits your stomach, this is fascinating. Your stomach pH is 2.0, 2.5. Baking soda is what? 9.5 pH. So your stomach's going to go, whoa, what happened to the acid? It actually forces the body to start producing stomach acid. So it's going to help naturally increase your body's natural stomach acid production, which is going to be great for people who need assistance with that. Because if you've been taking medications for years, your body's forgotten how to produce stomach acid. You need to remind it. You need to realign with how God designed your body to produce stomach acid. Because those drugs, I didn't fully discuss this, but PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, they actually stop your body from producing stomach acid. Your body will not produce stomach acid with these drugs. So baking soda will force the body to produce stomach acid. The alkaline minerals, remember I talked about bicarbonate minerals, those minerals actually go in an empty stomach right into the bloodstream. Immediately starts to what? Alkalize the blood, which is crucial for long-term health and life. It provides minerals available to the body and available to the bloodstream. So doing baking soda on an empty stomach is a great way to increase minerals and to strengthen digestion. Don't stress. Easier said than done, I said. So why stress is an issue? Fight or flight, we've heard that. When you're stressed out, like super stressed out, like running away from danger, you stop the digestive process. Okay, people have heard you go to a job interview, you get butterflies in your stomach, or people are stressed out, they get sick, they get nauseous, they can't digest their food, they might throw up, all these different things. It's because your nervous system goes into emergency fight or flight mode and digestive production stops. Hydrochloric acid production stops. So if you're chronically stressed all the time, you might not be producing stomach acid. So not being stressed out is going to be really helpful for this. We use holy basil a lot. It's our favorite herb for reducing stress. It makes people feel calm, relaxed, balanced, but doesn't make people tired or sleepy. Soon we'll be doing a class on anxiety, and I might talk for a half an hour on holy basil, I don't know, but it's one of my favorite plants for that. And we have a formula called Anxiety Free as well that works great. People swear by it. There's a lot of other things out there, but reducing stress, very helpful to help with digestion as well. And then, of course, the last one, getting off the antacids. Getting off the acid reflux drugs and medications. So my general rule of thumb, because medications are all different. Some, I'll just be blunt with you, I don't think they serve any purpose. And my joke is the side effect from getting off of this drug is you're immediately going to start to feel better. Like that's the side effect. That's with some drugs. With acid reflux drugs and other ones, you have to be cautious, because if you stop that cold turkey and you haven't done any of the right things, you're going to be pretty miserable. So a general rule of thumb is to start doing some of these things. Start changing your diet, getting off the processed foods, do a little food combining. It doesn't have to be perfect, but start that direction. Start doing the sea salt, start doing some greens, just basic, simple things. Give it a month. Especially if you've been doing this, taking medications for 10, 15, 20 years. Give it time. Give it a month to put the right things in the body to help the body naturally start producing digestive enzymes and stomach acid, and then wean off the medication. Cut it in half. I had a guy I was just working with who took 2 a day of the drugs, the pharmaceutical drugs. 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And he was really, really frightened to get off of them because he knew how it made him feel. And so we did the right things for a month or 2, and every time he'd come in, I'd be like, have you tried reducing it yet? No. And he's doing the right things. He's feeling great, losing weight, life is good. Next time I'd ask him, no. You know, it's such a fear, to come off of that. So finally he did. He cut out the afternoon one. He just took the morning one. And he's like, I'm fine. Had no issues whatsoever. And so now the morning one, he started cutting in half and cutting in half again. And so a general rule of thumb, do the right things for a month, reduce the medication by half, see how you feel. If you're doing the right things, I can give you a pretty decent guarantee that you're not going to need that drug anymore. And then, so you half, see how that goes, and then maybe go half again, which would be like a quarter, and then, slowly work off of it. Now, it might take some time for your body to reestablish health, to reestablish balance, to reestablish good stomach acid production. So you might have to be pretty good on your program. That birthday party might really hurt you, if you make a lot of bad choices. Or a 7-day cruise might really be trouble for you. So just understand where you're at, because I've heard both sides of the coin. I've had people get off the medications and go, wow, I went to this birthday and I had a little cake and it didn't bother me. I'm like, wow, that's neat. Your body's working better. But then I've had people who got off the medications and then had a rough weekend at a party and all the symptoms came back. So it might take some time for your body to reestablish that health or that balance or that good stomach acid production for the long term. But my heart, again, is to get people off of these medications and know that it's just a misalignment. Again, just to bring it all back around, it's a misalignment with the way God designed us to eat. The amount of food He designed us to eat. The choices of what He designed us to eat. He told us in Genesis 1:29 what to eat. In Leviticus 11, He was very clear on what we shouldn't eat. It's not legalism to believe and trust in God and what the Bible says to eat. I think it's just smart. So, in conclusion, let's align ourselves with God. And we don't have to suffer for years and years and years, spend our money on pharmaceutical drugs that damage our bodies, that lead to mineral loss, bone loss. I mean, these things are real things that happen to real people for them to discover all these side effects. So it's really unfortunate that we've been led astray and led to believe that this is a disease, which is not. Again, it's just a misalignment with how God designed us to eat and how our bodies should function. So, that's it. Be well. Thanks. So, any questions on acid reflux? Yes?
Just on the baking soda part,
yes.
It says get on the process.
Yes.
So, like, do you recommend certain brand? I mean, like, I generally just think of Arm & Hammer.
Right.
Or something like that, but like...
Arm & Hammer's great, but it's processed.
Okay,
So if you're cleaning stuff and doing all kinds of a million things you can do with baking soda, great. The one I get is out of a deposit in Green River, Wyoming. Comes right out of the ground, filtered. It's not processed at all. It's food grade. So they actually send the analysis to make sure there's no metals or any of that kind of things. There's been some controversy over aluminum in baking soda. You can buy the Bob's Red Mill at the store, where they have all the different grains and stuff, or you can get it from me. So.
Okay, so you do have it. Okay, that's something that I never thought as a process or unprocessed.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I was putting salt on my food every day, like 7 minutes. My blood pressure went up.
Uh-huh.
How long? I haven't been putting salt on my food, so how long do I have to wait until blood pressure comes down?
So her question was, she's been putting salt on her food, and her blood pressure's going up, and you're using sea salt? Okay. So if you're using sea salt and your blood pressure's going up, it's most likely a kidney issue. Because the job of your kidneys is to filter your blood and to filter minerals and to balance sodium and potassium levels. So you could have a deficiency in potassium and or a kidney issue, like a kidney blockage. You could do a kidney cleanse tea or something like that. Because most people actually, the number one thing I always recommend when people have high blood pressure is I have them start drinking salt in their water and putting salt on their food. I know how contrary does that sound to our medical system, but it will normalize and correct most people's high blood pressure. If it doesn't, it's because they're not processing the salt properly through their kidneys and through their fluid system. So it'd be a combination of taking minerals and maybe working on your kidneys a little bit. Yes?
You made a comment about salt for UTIs, and I didn't catch. You said half a teaspoon.
Yeah, what I said with salt for UTIs is I actually said a tablespoon of salt in warm water first thing when you wake up in the morning. It will cause a flush. It very well could cause diarrhea, but it can also knock out a yeast infection or a UTI because of the purifying components of sea salt.
You said a tablespoon in a glass of water.
A glass of warm water.
And then you just take part of that.
No, you do the whole tablespoon. Stir it up and drink it.
You said something about then taking a teaspoon and putting it in a glass of water and drink it every day.
Right. So the Soleil method, where you have your saturated salt water, you can do a teaspoon of that a day in water and drink it. And you can do more than that if you want. That's just a general rule of thumb for when you wake up in the morning. That's a daily, ongoing, great thing just to hydrate you. And this is more like you have an acute yeast infection and you want to do something for it right away. You can take a tablespoon of that or a tablespoon of any other kind of sea salt and stir it up. And oh yeah, it's going to be salty. Yeah, I saw the cringe. Yeah, it's not going to taste great. It's not going to taste great, but it can work. So, any other questions? Yes.
Yes. Baking soda. How do you know that you have ulcers?
How do you know that you have what?
How do you know if you have any ulcers in your stomach? How do you know?
Oh, she said, how do you know if you have ulcers in your stomach? Well, I know the doctors can do little scope things and see if you got ulcers in your stomach. If you take hydrochloric acid and immediately it causes burning, or if a lot of people are sensitive to spicy foods, they can't do cayenne pepper, they can't do other things, a lot of times that's why. It's because there's an ulcer. And especially if it happens immediately, because the first thing anything's going to hit is your stomach. And so if you eat spicy foods, immediately hits your stomach and causes pain, there's damage in your stomach lining. Did you want to follow up to that? Sorry.
If you have any ulcers, is it okay to continue, try the baking soda?
Yes. So yeah, if you have an ulcer, yeah, baking soda should be fine. Now, again, if you take baking soda, and because of what baking soda does on an empty stomach, you start putting hydrochloric acid, and it, again, starts to have that burning sensation, you might not be able to do that until you repair your stomach lining, which would be a whole nother conversation of slippery elm and different herbs and different things to heal your lining. But minerals are important for that. Different herbs can help repair your lining, but that would be why. Okay. Yes?
That's actually why I want to ask, like, if you have an ulcer in your stomach, what kind of recipe or what kind of things you can do to repair it?
Okay. So they did. Yeah, the question was about the ulcer. What can you do to repair that? We have a product that I like. I like Renew Life. It's a pretty neat company that really big on digestive health. They have a lot of good products. They have a formula called Intestinu. It's got glutamine, which is an amino acid that can heal damaged stomach lining. It also has a blend of herbs. So there's a term called mucilaginous herbs, which are mucus-forming herbs that kind of coat and soothe. Fun story. There was a gal who used to come into the store all the time. She had horses. And the horses, on occasion, would get ulcers. And she'd actually buy a couple pounds of slippery elm and feed it to the horses, and it would take care of their ulcers. So slippery elm bark, marshmallow root, crane's bill, marigold. There's a bunch of herbs that are going to help soothe and coat and heal the stomach lining. But there's some blends of a lot of stomach formulas are going to have some of those herbs in it. But mucilaginous herbs are the best herbs for that. And then there's the minerals are important too, especially your electrolyte minerals, because all your tissues are made of minerals. So magnesium, potassium, taking electrolyte minerals is going to help heal that stomach lining as well. L-glutamine, which is an amino acid, is commonly used to heal the stomach lining as well. And then proper food combining, eating the right foods, not stressing out your stomach, because it's not going to have time to heal if it's always been having digestive issues. So following the principles of food combining or body ecology diet, those things are going to help with the ulcer as well. Anything else? Okay, yes?
Is that a person have the acid reflux problem? Is that connected with like constipation or other digestive problems?
Yeah, so he asked if acid reflux connected to constipation or other digestive problems. I mean, it's definitely connected to other digestive problems because of you can have the yeast overgrowth. You're not digesting your food properly, which can cause it to go into the rest of your intestines and undigested. I mean, so that causes a whole host of problems. As far as being related to constipation, yes and no. I mean, acid reflux in and of itself, I haven't really necessarily linked with constipation. A lot of people, if they have reflux and they're not digesting their food, actually food passes through them undigested, like with diarrhea that irritates their system. Constipation is usually more of a lack of bile flow or liver gallbladder issues. And it can also be a lack of healthy intestinal flora. So the acid reflux can lead to an unhealthy gut flora, which can lead to constipation as well. I mean, ultimately, it's one system from here to here, right? So if you're having digestive issues, right at your stomach, sure, it can cause an issue all the way, throughout. But there's multiple reasons people have constipation. Dehydration, mineral deficiencies, lack of healthy intestinal flora, lack of bile flow from liver gallbladder issues, and then just a diet that's heavy and doesn't have enough fiber. So there can be multiple reasons for that. We'll probably do one on constipation because that's a common issue. Okay. Thank you all. See you next time.
Thank you.
You know what the next class will be on?
Next Monday? What's after acid reflux? ADD and ADHD? Would be my guess?
I've got the sheet in the back.
Okay. I think it's ADD.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Cool.
Is this low